Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Glad with Dad. My name's Harrison. I'm joined with my dad.
My name's Alan. I'm Harrison's dad.
Yep. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about vulnerability is strength. So I really hope you enjoy. I think this is a great topic, and hopefully you'll be able to get something from it. So let's get into it. So, what do you think vulnerability was when you were younger? We'll start with that.
Oh, wow. I was afraid of looking stupid, really. So, how could you talk about what's going on, which is a state of being vulnerable, if you were afraid of what other people think and looking stupid?
Yeah.
And, I know that most people have got the fear of what other people think.
Yeah.
And those who said that say they don't is usually
lying.
Got more of the fear than most. To not need the approval of everyone is one thing, but I had the shocking fear of looking stupid, really. And I thought of it was weak to be vulnerable.
I thought so too.
If I told vulnerable and I was telling people what was going on, they would have ammunition to stand over me. And in the world that I lived in when I was younger, it was dangerous to be vulnerable. There's all kinds of games that went on. Stand over. And I was afraid of being hurt, and being laughed at. Really, they were my biggest fears that hindered my well-being. Really. And I didn't know how much it hindered my well-being until years later. But as I was a young man, it was very hard.
Well, when you're never vulnerable, you're instead putting on this armor that's it protects you, right? You still get beat on, and you're cracking on the inside, but you can't see on the outside because the armor's still protecting you, but it's slowly whittling you down still.
Yeah, and we'd be make jokes all the time. It was a sort of throw off from being vulnerable, to hide how frightened you really are. You'd be joking all the time.
Yeah.
Being a clown. I was a clown, really. I was a clown growing up. It was way of my...
that was your escape.
Even though here I was afraid of being laughed at, yet I would...
Because you had the control over why you were being laughed at.
There you go.
You were in control. Yeah, that's what it was.
Different.
Because it was being laughed at for something you chose instead of something that's actually...
It's all in my hands.
Something on your character or what you like or, anything like that.
And what about you? How did you see vulnerability?
I definitely thought it was weak. I thought to be vulnerable was to be weak. That was my first thought. Actually, I have the definition in the Oxford Dictionary here what vulnerability is.
Really?
So the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally.
Oh wow!
So when you first read that, it seems like a bad thing straight away, and you don't want to be vulnerable ever. Unless if you just look at it at face value. And I was probably taught what vulnerability was, and as the definition ensues in primary school, and that's where it probably came from. But I thought it was weak, and it wasn't ever good to be vulnerable. I was scared to be taken advantage of, because I was bullied. Being vulnerable would give them, like you were saying, more ammunition for them to, take more hits at me.
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely that. And I also thought that, as a man in society, it's hard to, it's kind of shunned on to talk about your feelings. It's changing a lot more now. It's becoming a lot more acceptable. But
that's how we were able to do this podcast. So I definitely wouldn't have been doing this.
Yeah, definitely. But back then, even though I'm not even that old, it's only really recent, I think, personally, that it's kind of had a big shift. But before, it was shunned upon to be vulnerable, to talk about your feelings. You had to be the tough guy, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't ever be vulnerable. And when you're never vulnerable, you can never really heal.
And you can't really have an intimate relationship.
No.
You can't be vulnerable.
No. You're just you're showing them what you want them to see.
Yeah, and that's okay if you just want to, be with somebody without actual taking risks.
Yeah.
Because being vulnerable is really taking a risk, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And there are people like that you can't be vulnerable.
100%. Not everyone's safe to be vulnerable, you know. And I totally get that. And that, you know, when you're hanging around with people that are not necessarily that way inclined, it's dangerous to be vulnerable. Where I grew up, it was dangerous to be vulnerable. Not only would you be stood over, you'd be like hurt, physically hurt, because you know people get a sense of power from standing over people.
Yeah.
You know, and if you were seen weak, that's why I had to constantly put it on the front.
Yeah.
That I was sort of not afraid. You know. You know, I was constantly afraid. And
as pretty much probably everyone around you was too. Besides the craziest of the crazy, they were probably all shit scared too, putting on a facade because that's what you do around the boys or you know, around your gang or whatever you're hanging out with.
Yeah. Well, I did. I grew up in gangs in Melbourne. You know.
Yeah.
It was a bit hectic growing up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
But. No, I had some good blokes around me, you know, but I remember one time telling my best mate something that I found hard living with, you know. I need to talk to somebody, and like I shared, I think, in the last podcast, that he brought it up in front of other people, not mentioning my name, but just bringing it up, and that shut me down for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like 10 years, that's a long time.
10 years.
10 years to be trapped in the self-centered cage of self.
Yeah.
Not trusting anyone, not being able to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Because someone exposed you when you were.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was someone so close to you.
Yeah, 100%, you know.
You have to really pick and choose.
Yeah.
But you do need someone still. And you can't be not vulnerable to anyone.
I'm just so thankful that I come to a place where I began to trust an older man, and he was...
a mentor for you?
He was a mentor, my first kind of mentor.
Yeah.
I had mentors before that, but they weren't particularly good for me.
Yeah.
they guided me in the path that they were travelling.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily, there was a destructive path, you know. So when I found a mentor heading in the right direction where my life would be improving rather than being in danger.
And you wouldn't be a detriment to those around you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember being vulnerable with an older man in another time, and it wasn't necessarily a good thing. You know? So to have an older man as a mentor,
you could trust,
heading in the right direction, it made the world a difference for me.
It would have
shown my life really began.
Yeah.
Really. And I wasn't until I was 22.
Yeah.
Before that started to happen for me, you know. And yet I was brought up with, 6 brothers in my family, you know. So there was men around me all the time.
Yeah.
And kind of
1 of 7.
Yeah.
That's a bit.
Yeah. And we dealt with things in a different way.
Yeah.
A lot of it was drinking. You know?
Yeah.
We'd see an expression on one another's face, and it wouldn't be talked about too much, but we'd say, "Come on, let's go down the pub."
Yeah. Heaps of people do that. I hear that.
That's
heaps.
the way we kind of dealt with things back then, you know. And
even now, there are so many people that do it.
Yeah. That's okay to be dealing with that, but if you're dealing with that all the time,
if that's your only way, then it's not dealing with it. It's just prolonging the pain.
The inevitable, you know.
Yeah.
Like you can how long can you push stuff down for?
Yeah.
What I've found with myself and talking with others, the older you get, the less you can push down.
Yeah.
Because eventually it all comes up.
Yeah.
You know. So the quicker you can learn.
You can either deal with it or
it deals with you.
Yeah, it deals with you. Yeah, you're gonna. If you can never deal with the thoughts and problems that you have in your head, eventually you're going to lead to a point where you can't deal with those thoughts. And that's the saddest part, because that's where people kill themselves.
It's really sad.
And leaving it for as long as possible, it gets stronger and stronger and harder to deal with. So you need to, whenever you have something coming up in your life, you have to be vulnerable.
And like, I thought I had to know everything too, you know, about everything. It was hard. So when did you find you started to be more vulnerable, or even begin to be vulnerable? Really?
I wasn't at all. In primary school, probably the only person I could be vulnerable with was my best mate Jai. I didn't really have many other friends, just people that come in and out of my life.
Not necessarily with me either. At that age.
At that age,
because the gap was too far.
We couldn't really relate with each other when I was in primary school.
No.
So someone my age was better. So when I was younger, it was Jai was the person I could be vulnerable with, and if I didn't have Jai, it would have been fucking difficult. Personally, I probably would have killed myself with how my life was. If I didn't have that one person I could be vulnerable with, it would have been over.
Wow.
And I was young, and to think that when you're in primary school, it's it's not conditioned like how people a lot of the time in like high school and stuff, you've seen and heard of what suicide is, so it's printed in your mind as an escape. But when you're young, it's to think of that as the escape is a lot of the time it means that it really was something that
goes to show, like, we got the highest suicide rate, I think, in Australia of teenage boys. That hasn't just happened at teenage. Harrison's just told us that's happened at an earlier age. But it's got built up to the point where it's unbearable, and can't be stood. So thank God there's there's places now they've got helpline, and
there's helplines. There's different
ways.
There's so many different like people you can talk to. You can even talk to people like anonymously now. So.
Oh wow.
So if you don't want to have someone know who you are, but you still want to be vulnerable with someone, you can. And they're a lot of the time they're like trained professionals. So.
Which I don't. I encourage everyone to find someone.
Same. Same.
Really. I remember a man saying to me one time, I heard him speak, and he said that there's someone for everyone, really. But you've got to start somewhere, really. You've got to start with. So you give them something and it doesn't go anywhere, and you build on that, and you give them another little bit, and let it build and continually build on that. But I've found, like I said, I'll build that up over the last at least 30 years to be able to, I've got half a dozen strong men that I can talk to. And like, if you don't, there's always like clubs you can talk to. There's like we done karate together, right? And that was a great place to feel. We felt safe amongst strong men. Yet we could be vulnerable in the way that we didn't have to know it all. Well, we didn't know it all. We knew nothing. So that there's some good clubs around, but
it was different. Well, I think more so than other sports, martial arts is something that you can really be. I feel like you can be a lot more vulnerable in that sort of situation than a lot of sports, because sports
is got the pack mentality.
Definitely. Like.
But that does depend on the instructor.
100%. I just mean majority. Majority.
Because some are ego driven.
Yeah.
And others are humble enough to know that everyone needs to start somewhere and be where they're at and help them from there. Which we were blessed to have. Fantastic mentors in our style of karate.
Yeah, definitely. One of the I remember an instance that I was vulnerable and it backfired, right? Was like I told the teacher I get easily distracted from like people and just things like that, like seeing things move and people talking in front of me. So what the teacher decided to do was to deal with me so I didn't distract others too, because when I was distracted I'd distract others. Instead of putting me up, like probably up the front, which like, and put everyone back a meter or something, that would have, no one would have been in front of me, so I wouldn't have been distracted. It just would have been me and the teacher in my mind. Instead, she found this corner in like at the back of the class where there was this desk that wasn't the same as everyone else's desk. It was a different one. It was like an old teacher's desk, and I sat at that. And
so that made you feel different?
Made me feel different, like segregated.
More vulnerable.
More vulnerable in a negative way.
Yes, yeah. I remember the same. I was always put there in the back of the class.
Yeah, that's not what you should do with the kids like that.
I remember on every one of my report cards were the same, as easily distracted.
Yeah.
You know, because I had one of their minds that continually found it hard to be in the present. And a lot of the time I didn't know what they were talking about as well, you know, or wasn't interested.
Yeah.
Because I found like I was pretty much able to concentrate and be present when it came to woodwork. Because it's something that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff I didn't enjoy, you know, because I found it difficult.
Yeah.
Being illiterate was really hard.
You know? Yeah, definitely. And having having you in my life when I got older, once it wasn't my best friend who was the only person I could be vulnerable with, like I could be vulnerable with you once I got to the point where I could have proper conversations with you. And instead of like pushing your own ideals onto me or, you know, trying to solve my problems, you would just be there understanding and listening and helping me analyze it myself.
Through my own experience.
Yes, instead of just telling me you got to do this, or because that's.
And I found that's the best way to share with anyone is to share my experience. That's like what we try and do here.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do or how to do it. We're
just sharing our experience.
Sharing our experience, strength and hope, and
hopefully someone can get something from it.
Yeah, that's right. You know, like and like. What helped me also, I seen other men be vulnerable, you know, and they were a lot older than me and they were vulnerable. They were able to talk the way they felt. And I remember hearing a man talk the way he felt one time, and I couldn't believe that another man felt that way because I'd never heard it before.
You thought that you were the only one?
Oh, yeah, and I couldn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So, you know, it makes it
because that'd make you feel weak.
Plus it's very lonely. And you think you're the only one that feels that, it's a very lonely place.
Definitely.
You know, and
well, you feel like you're different than everyone else, the whole 7 other billion people.
Wow, yeah, pretty lonely place. Yeah.
An alien.
And you don't have to be. And the more I've talked to other men, and the more I've less I'm alone, really.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier on, not everyone's safe to be vulnerable with. So you learn you learn as you go, really.
Yeah.
Who's safe, who's not.
Yeah, there's people you're going to tell sometimes that you're going to be vulnerable with who will possibly take advantage of you, that situation, but that not being vulnerable ever, to avoid that isn't the better way to go.
No.
It's having that risk is worth the reward from being vulnerable, because vulnerability is where you learn about yourself.
And I used to be able to be vulnerable with women, talking about the way I felt, but you know, how can you, like, a woman can't teach me how to be a man in this world. I need another man to be able to teach me how to be a man in this world, and I didn't know that until years, you know. As I got older, really.
Yeah.
I need good men around me to be able to teach me how to be vulnerable as a man.
Yeah.
A woman can't teach me that. She
Yeah.
can only teach me from a woman's point of view.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's, you know, I valued the time and the conversations I've had with women over the years.
Definitely.
Helped me stay alive, really, long enough to find good men to be able to find to be able to trust, really. It's just gone from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But like we said, there's lots of help out there. Reach out, find somebody you can talk to, and if you've found something,
well, like,
what do you feel?
What I had to do is I had to learn what vulnerability was first. So I learned that it isn't necessarily means I'm weak. It can mean so much more. It means to be vulnerable is where you can learn about yourself, is where you can figure things out. To be vulnerable is when other people can help you, because they can't help you if they don't know what's really going on either.
Is that more easier now with your generation than, say, my generation, you think?
I feel like it would be because
it's more open now.
Yeah, social media and also just our society.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think so. So one of the things that happened to me that made me really realize how valuable it is to be vulnerable, as well as realize how little people are vulnerable in their life, is I started posting online. I started writing about things, about different emotions, about different things that impacted my life that I knew impact other people's lives too, and I'd put that out there and I'd get a response. But that came from I was so vulnerable in a negative way in high school, and I was being bullied a lot, that I wanted to take control of it. So I went to my best friend's house for Christmas for 2 weeks, and I kind of forgot. Before I visited my friends, I kind of forgot how good life could be. Everything kind of had that grey filter over it, if you will.
Yeah.
And then when I went there, that got removed and everything was bright and colourful. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And so after having that experience, once I came home.
So that's just from being in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not everyone is. That's. That's the sad bit.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a safe environment.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, when I got home, I started thinking I got to do something. I got to help people, and so I started writing. And not only did I help other people, I helped myself, because I was putting myself out there for people online. I was being vulnerable, and that's where the healing would happen. And that's where I'd figure stuff out, not only about stuff I'd need to heal from, but just different ways of thinking that would improve my life.
From other people's stuff, or what they respond with?
That too, as well as just being vulnerable and writing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the gifts that came from me being vulnerable. Everything that I'm doing now on social media came from me being vulnerable.
Wow. Yeah.
So my whole future, what I want to do, it's all came from vulnerability.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's the turnaround from being bullied and feeling like you don't fit in to now being able to do something what we're doing now and what we have in the future, together. And both of us feeling exactly, not exactly the same, but feeling similar feelings as we were growing up. And I'm sure we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
So if you've found you've related in any way or it's helped you in any way, we'd love to hear from you. Just leave a comment,
tell us your story. Yeah.
Let us know your struggles, and if you're still struggling, and
we'd love to hear it.
We really appreciate you being here with us and sharing the journey, and hopefully you'll hang around to see the rest of it. So until next time.
Yeah, until next
time.
Bye
for now.
Yeah. Bye.